About stress through COVID today. I'm seeing just a ton of this in my practice, and because I'm seeing so much of this in my practice, I'm actually going to do a webinar. We're going to be doing that on May 26th at noon Eastern. I think there should be link information at the top of this video. So we'll do a full 45 on just the topic of burnout actually through COVID for executives. So I hope you can join us if you feel like your stress level is just a little off kilter. But I want to just mostly today, so in the webinar, we'll talk about sort of signs, coping mechanisms, things like that, how it affects leadership, what to think about in terms of your people and what they may be going through, because you may not actually know. But for today, I just want to talk a little bit about why the stress level is so high and why the burnout is something I see coming for many people. And I just want people to take a step back for a moment and think about vulnerabilities as a human. So when we think about the topics that tend to make people feel really vulnerable, and when they're vulnerable, they may withdraw and get sad, they may get aggressive with others, but vulnerability is always sort of uncomfortable, right? We get most vulnerable about our health. When you're in the hospital, how do you feel? Vulnerable, scared, and again, people can react by just sort of freezing, they can react by being kind of nasty with staff. Like, you know, most of us don't have perfect vulnerability coping skills, and you know, the virus, obviously this is a health threat that's very, very real for many people, and so we have that layer of vulnerability, which leaves us this sort of continuous level of stress that never really goes away because we can't get away from it. We can't even get away from the media around it. The second vulnerability, money. People get very upset about money when they feel like their, you know, salary is at risk, or they feel vulnerable for something, you know, keeping them from providing for their families. Again, they get that same sort of reaction. They can get paralyzed, they can get angry, frustrated, worried, they can lose sleep. And so we've got this constant, you know, the worry about the economy, the worry about a downturn, the worry about layoffs and furloughs. So we've got, you know, health is vulnerable, money is vulnerable. And then the other thing that can make people feel really vulnerable is really their families, right? And those family relationships. And all of a sudden we go from this sort of normal way of living to being quarantined 24/7 with people whom hopefully we love quite a bit, but that doesn't mean that we're used to cohabitating with them 24 hours a day. And those little friction points can really start to add up. Add on to that many workers don't have the childcare that they are used to having, so the nannies had to go back to, you know, wherever they, you know, their own place to live. You know, people can't get their kids in their daycare. So, you know, we also have this layer of like a really big job of parenting on top of these jobs that if we're working from home are still just as demanding, if not more demanding. And what I'm seeing is that jobs are being more demanding right now. So what I want people to just be considerate of with themselves and also with others is that the layers of vulnerability are so layered that we don't have really an internal capacity to handle that. Pile on top of that social isolation. Most of us haven't seen our friend, we haven't hugged our extended families or our besties in a long, long time. And you know, social community is one of the strongest predictors of longevity of life. So we know it's critical to our health if it's more of a predictor than even smoking or obesity. So, you know, there are multiple layers all stacked on top of people right now, none of which are making anything particularly easy. And our jobs have also gotten harder. So if nothing else for right now, what I want people to know is if you're struggling, if you're feeling depressed or blue or overwhelmed or paralyzed or angry or frustrated, you are absolutely in good company. I talk to people and coach people every day, so I hear kind of what's going on behind the scenes, and I am seeing stress responses, especially for clients that I may have worked with on and off for years at a time. Like, I am seeing stress responses that are quite unusual. Nothing, you know, scary or dangerous, but you know, people are not they're definitely not themselves. So if you're feeling any of those things, I just want everyone to know that even though you may feel alone, and I know some of you are quarantined alone, you're not alone. We're all sharing a lot of the same human experiences of this COVID. And I think, you know, together is how we get through it. So too much to talk about in a short video, but do want to remind people that we will do a long session on the 26th on executive burnout. Again, signs to look for, ways to cope with it, and a chance to have a community conversation around that topic. And I'll give you everything I can from what I'm seeing in the real world.